Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live from Fire and Safety. I'm Bubba.
Hey, I'm Russ.
And I'm Jeff.
All right. As of today, we got a new thing we're going to do here at Boss. We're going to actually we're going to introduce the world to some of our employees. Today is none other than our Scott technician, Jeff Lloyd. A little strange, but nevertheless a good employee, good guy, and man, he really knows his stuff on parts and stuff for Scott. But folks, we'll talk a little bit of football right quick, boss.
Hey,
My top four are still in the money. Yours is going to come to an end this weekend.
that's what you thought after the first game.
I'm just telling you.
That's fine.
Wisconsin's going to take it to Michigan this week. Guarantee you, mark the tape. In the words of my friend Walt Deptula, mark the tape. It's done and over with.
Remember LSU? Told you. That's all I'm going to say.
It's just
And I'm not an LSU fan.
Let's be honest.
I'm a Georgia fan. Everybody knows.
I just my biggest fear on
Mark the tape.
LSU is, folks, bear with us. We have a little bit of technical difficulties here.
We are, guys. We started off this morning and really had some technical difficulties, so I hope it's not as bad as we're hearing.
Yeah.
We're going to have them fixed next week.
Yeah,
But anyway.
The producer goes on a cruise, comes back, and then it just goes haywire.
It does. It does.
So, folks, today's show, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the importance of maintenance, servicing of your Scott Air Packs. And today we brought Jeff on. Just one, everybody out there can meet him, but number two is let's talk about some of the importance of why somebody would flow test air packs. Obviously, you perform these tests on a bench pretty much.
Yes.
So it's not an ideal H environment.
Correct.
And the second thing is what functions, we don't want an air pack to ever fail.
Correct.
Okay?
We don't.
So that's why it's important for them to contact you, get in touch with you, let's perform the flow test. You actually have the parameters printed off,
Yes.
and you actually be able to show what that air pack's capability was, and talk about some of the things that happened during the flow test.
So there's about 10 tests, honestly. First one is visual. So it's checking your straps, just kind of the things that a fireman would do on a daily basis, checking off their apparatus. So you're going to be checking your straps, making sure your pass works, making sure that the frame's good, integrity. You change batteries, they're good, your heads up display's working. There's no tears, anything that would kind of detrimental to this air pack. Again, when you're doing a good tip is when you're checking these for leaks or checking them in the morning, have your trucks cut off. Listen to your air pack, because there's a lot of times that I've had air packs that are like, oh, we checked that off that morning, and they have a major leak, and they couldn't hear it because the diesel truck was running, and you can't always hear that.
Right.
So that's something that keep it quiet. Don't have your chainsaws running. Don't have your generators going when you cut these on, and just listen. And you can sometimes, identify and diagnose some of these things with a leaking, instead of you being in a fire going, hey, I just ran out of air.
Right, which is a bad time.
That is a bad time. It's
Now, as far as the pneumatic side of the Scott Air Pack and flow testing, walk me through some of the steps as far as the flow.
So, of course, you'll have your cylinder, which right now it's actually attached to the PosiCheck.
Right.
It comes through your high pressure.
So this
hose.
machine is called a what now?
PosiCheck.
All right.
Yes. So there's a couple. This one's made by Honeywell, and Scott Safety actually has one as well.
Mm-hmm.
But all the software is by Scott. Yes. Now MSA uses the same machine, but it's different parameters and software. So this one is of course set up for Scott Safety and air packs, and this is doing all the models that Scott offers.
Correct. So you strictly do Scott products on it?
Correct, I do. But again, let's go back. So air is going to come through your high pressure hose into your primary and into your secondary. That is one thing that is indicative of Scott is the dual redundant system.
And that's two separate springs, correct?
Correct, it is. So it's not a spring within a spring, right. And it's oddly enough, I've talked to a MSA technician. And I asked him, I said, have you ever opened one up and, looked at it? Because I've always heard it's a spring within a spring. And of course, with my license, I'm not allowed to touch MSA. And he was like, no, I never opened one up. And I kind of find that kind of hard to believe because, I'm curious by nature. So I'll open a pin up just to see how it works. So I can tell you for a fact that I've taken Scott air packs apart, put them back together way more times than I really
Right.
count, sometimes. But, and none of them
Hey, you've done it for
have
fun.
been. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
He done it for
So-
fun one time. I saw that.
That's my vacation is good.
So really
I'm
briefly,
proud.
whenever you're functioning a test, what kind of area, if you go to a fire department to do a test, what kind of area are needing space-wise?
So typically I have my van and I set up and I've got about 50-foot hose line. And it's this blue
Get
line
out of
right
the way. I'm
here.
gonna step out of the way where you can
so-
see.
Typically, as long as I'm within 50 feet of my van, I'm good.
And that's the reason you actually have some air supplied on your van, correct?
Yes, correct. I have it supplied on. So, and typically what I'll do is I have about this size of table, this area, as far as the room that I really need. Maybe a little room for dancing, but otherwise,
Right.
I'm pretty good.
So let's just say that there's a chief out there that has never had air pack flow tested. Maybe wants to get involved in flow testing, because let's talk about the importance of it first and foremost. Because long before we offer a service, you got to understand, as long as they're getting serviced somewhere, why is
I
it
agree.
important to get an air pack service?
So it's just like when you get your car serviced. You wouldn't want to go on a family trip to across the states and be like, I didn't get my oil changed, didn't check tire pressure, didn't do anything, and that that's just living off the edge. I mean, some people like to do that, but you're definitely gambling, and that's your life that you're gambling with,
Right.
or your fireman. If you're a fire chief, you're actually gambling with your guy's life.
Right.
And at that point, that's not smart, for one, because the first thing that you're supposed to be doing is looking out for yourself
Right.
in these kind of things.
Now let's go with one of the big things, because a lot of people, when you start talking about flow testing, they'll say, "Oh, we can't afford it," right off the bat. But the truth is, they can't afford it.
Yes.
And let's go talk about what you're able to catch on the bench versus in a life-saving situation is cost of ownership.
Yes.
So whenever you're talking about cost of ownership, in a yearly basis, you're going to put about $25 in this air pack, batteries, flow tests, so on and so
Correct.
forth, and that would help cost the longevity of it.
Mhm.
So Scott just released a new warranty, boss.
They did.
And
Hey, that's a whole nother show.
Honestly, we don't
It
have
is.
enough
Yes.
information on it.
I think we do.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know enough about it to speak on it, but I am going in today. I gotta talk to my good friend Rob Scott from Scott U,
Yep.
and or Scott Safety, and we'll know more about it.
It's a game changer.
It is. It really
But I will
is.
tell you, if you haven't read all the social media on 3M Scott Safety's new warranty,
Yeah.
you better get connected, because it is a game changer.
It is.
And
And by the way, I just noticed you got my mic. I knew something was wrong here, because this thing, that's my mic.
all right, folks, as you can tell, it's
It's
all
got the-
about the boss.
No,
Yes.
you got my mic.
Yeah.
I tried to tell you about that before we started, because that's, I just noticed the marshmallows.
Oh boy.
The marshmallow's
I'm
bigger
gonna turn
here
off my pass now
than it was
because
there.
I.
I just want to
We're
point that out.
talking about something really important.
I
The boss
know.
is worried
Yeah,
about
yeah.
microphones.
No,
You
I
know,
tried to tell you
It is
that.
part of it.
at least we know who raised Corey Hawkins, right?
Well, that's true.
There
Yeah,
you go.
I mean-
Enough said by that.
Yes.
But Jeff, so really briefly, let's actually run through a function
Okay.
test and
So-
what to be surprised by the
Okay.
customer.
So, the first test, of course, is the visual. So again, you're going back, checking everything, making sure that this isn't hanging off. You got all your straps; they're not falling off. You never want to clean these with bleach, for one thing. So if you see any burn marks or holes in it, you want to make note of those. Now, that doesn't mean that this is trash and you got to throw it away and it's no good. Oh, you've got a hole. But it does mean that you need to either watch it
Mhm.
and be concerned, or replace it. Scott recommends that you replace any part that is not pretty much out of the box. So if it didn't come that way, it needs to be replaced, just so that they can guarantee its integrity.
And also too, I know we're kind of short on time. We're running on time a little bit. You want to step this way, because I love this idea. The documentation. Go over
Okay.
that. What they get after you do your flow test,
So,
and what they have.
With the documentation, you end up getting a whole printout of, it'll say pass, and it'll give the parameters of each test, and if it passed and where it kind of fell in line with those things. Some of them will just be a blue writing that says pass on it. You won't really actually see
Right.
the parameters. but you will also see a breathing on the standard and the max breathing rate. And what that really does is it's kind of simulating, hey, can this air pack flow no matter what you're doing? So if you're breathing heavy, or if you're over there skip breathing because you're running out of air, can it give you the supply of demand that you need?
Right.
Which that is actually part of it. It also, there's a test in there that actually tests for if there's a failure in your primary. So it automatically goes to your secondary. So your vibe alert comes on, but you'll still have good air here. And that's just saying, hey, there's something wrong with your air pack. It's time to get out. And
to be honest with you, the most end users, that's all they need to be concerned about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is to get out of safety.
Yes.
Look, one of the things that I felt fascinating when I first came to work here was why Scott didn't believe in transfield. Because an ideal H environment is not the time to worry about the failures.
Correct.
Get out, and we can work on the air pack later.
Yes.
So, Jeff, that's a lot of knowledge. Why don't we do this? Any of you guys and girls out there listening that is interested in getting your air packs flow tested, or if we currently do flow testing for you, have any questions, you can reach Jeff here, 864-225-1128. What's your work cell phone?
It's 864-505-0466.
All right,
so if you have any questions, you can call, you can text. Middle of the night, if you're a chief and you're like, hey, there's something going on.
And that's true.
That's, I will answer it and say, hey, let me see it. Or if it's within reason of travel, I don't mind coming out that night if it's something that's serious.
Right.
Well, the biggest thing is when you are a Scott user, we are committed to you.
We are.
Because Scott has been so good to us over the years. We're committed to the end user and the safety of them. When we sell to some of our customers, they're just not customers. They become family.
Yes.
That's the reason I stay in tune and I still love doing what we do, is because I feel a part of those people. I just want to give a quick shout out, if you don't mind, my boys Greg Lindley, Richie. They're on the road this morning. I know you guys are watching. Hey, y'all be careful coming back over the road.
And there's so many people that wants us to give them a shout out, or I promise them I do, and I don't.
Well, that's broken promises by you, not by me.
Well, I don't write it down, and I tend to forget. So thanks everybody for watching. And our old buddy Caleb Shore, he watches all the time. I want to say
hello, Caleb.
Yeah, want to watch him. And it's time to give away a prize.
Let's give away a little
bit. And like always, guys, we got to remember to like and share the page. We give away our prizes, and you people that wins. How about calling us? We're glad to give them to you, ship them to you. So Richie won last week, got his prize.
Richie McWorthy, yeah. We'll give a shout out to Richie and do his hour.
Yes.
All right, boss, we got us this week's winner, Bree Worley. Bree Worley. If you would give us a phone call, we'll tag you in this. You just won yourself a Stream Light. So give us a call, Bree. And you guys got to click to share, and share the page for next week's drawing. And we'll give away something else.
Jeff, thank you for coming. Well done, good.
Yeah, Jeff, appreciate you being on the show. Hey, guys, don't forget to say your prayers, and we'll see you next week, same place.
God bless.